The English for Oil and Gas project was already up and running when I was invited to join the team as co-author on Students' Book 1. I was asked to join the project because of my experience writing and developing ESP materials. It was great to be asked. It was a really good opportunity. No, I didn't have any direct experience of the oil and gas industry. I taught at Sumitomo Electric Industries in Osaka for 2 years, so I did have good solid experience teaching English in an industrial context, working with engineers largely. I started doing research right away. Before I could write anything, I had a fair bit of reading to do. I also talked to several people I know with relevant industry experience, and they were able to answer specific questions that I had, but also just through some conversation give me an idea of what the issues were that I needed to deal with in writing English for Oil and Gas. So that was extremely useful. Probably one of the biggest challenges was making sure that the material was authentic. Authentic materials don't necessarily mean exact reproductions of, say, documents that someone encounters on a day-to-day basis in the oil and gas industry, although we did look at quite a bit of material like that. But what authenticity means to me in ESP is that somebody who works in the industry would open the book and say, yes, these are the situations we work in, this is the type of language we need, this feels like my real professional life to me, and I think we succeeded in that. As part of my research, I spoke with a couple of friends of mine who had relevant industry experience. One worked for many years in oil and gas exploration in Siberia, in Nigeria, in Gabon. And he was able to give me a lot of useful insider information and tell me, especially when something I'd written just didn't quite sound right or didn't quite sound real. The other friend works as a hydrologist, and he spent a lot of time on drilling rigs looking for water, but when you're drilling, if you're drilling for oil or drilling for water, the processes are the same. He was able to actually supply me with a lot of photographs of work that he'd done and job sites that he'd been on, which gave me a good feel for what it's like to be on the ground in that particular situation. Another member of the team was Peter Astley, series consultant. Peter's trained as an engineer and has many years' experience working all over the world in the oil and gas industry, so he was also able to give a lot of useful input and guidance. We had a team of reviewers who are teachers who teach English for the oil and gas industry. So they were able to comment to a certain extent on authenticity, but also, more importantly, for them, for their role in the project, they were able to comment on how effective the materials would be in the classroom, in the English for oil and gas classroom. There was one nice surprise in writing the material. I had to write a unit on pipes and pipelines, and I assumed that that would be another area of study that I would just be on my way up another steep learning curve. But what I found as I started doing the research was that welding needed to be an important part of the content of that unit. When I was in high school, a friend of mine taught me to do a bit of oxyacetylene welding, and we worked on cars and made some modifications. And then later on, I had a friend who was a sculptor who did metal work and taught me to do arc welding. So as a result of those two experiences, which were more or less just me dabbling in something a bit like a hobby, the result of having done that was that I understood, for example, basic welding, personal protective gear, welders' helmets, the different types of helmet, gloves, the fact that it's very dangerous to look at an arc spark because it'll damage your eyes. I was also just familiar with a lot of basic welding terminology and welding processes. So for that part of the book, it was nice to feel not only at home with the fact that I was writing ESP materials, but in that case also with some of the technical content of the book, which came as a surprise to me and a pleasant one.